Okay, so those that have been following the channel for a while now knows that I like to cover topics that don't really get touched on by veterinarians. Things like why do dogs wag their tails? Why do cats hate water? These really interesting topics instead of the plain old, why is my dog sick and why my cat is vomiting? So today I thought we'd answer some of the 10 most popular pet Googled questions that I could find on the internet. Let's go. So the first question is, how long are dogs pregnant? This is a really good question. Actually, it's roughly about 63 to 65 days with individual differences between, giant breeds and small breeds. But it's really crucial to know that at about the 9-week period mark, you should really be looking out for quintessential signs that your dog might be wanting to pup. These are things like seeking behavior, trying to shelter. They start to scruff and what we call making nest behavior. These are crucial indicators that your female dog, or let's not say that word, this word, is about to pup. Okay, so the next question is Goofy actually a dog? I think the answer is yes. He's obviously an anthropomorphic dog, which is basically a fictional dog, or a dog that's, standing on 2 legs and mimicking human behavior. But I think this is a pretty easy one. It's yes. And if you had to ask me, I think he's probably roughly based on probably some sort of hound or even a very skinny Boerboel, but his behavior is probably more fitted of that of a boxer. Okay, third question is, why does my dog lick me? Okay, so licking is a very universal behavior for dogs, and it's not always a positive thing. So it's important to note not all licking behaviors are, affectionate, happy behaviors. It can actually also be a form of submission or even attention-seeking behavior. Have you ever noticed how mommy dogs like to lick their pups? Yeah, that's kind of like a calming thing. So dogs obviously inherit that from a puppy age and like to show that affection or calming or submissive behavior towards their owners or new people. But I think a key point is that you should just monitor your dog for certain patterns as to kind of, check for bad or unwanted behaviors. All right, this next question is a really good one. How can you tell how old an animal is? Cats are really tough. Dogs are slightly easier, but there are so many factors that kind of affect what you see. Things like malnutrition, a poor start to life. Here in South Africa, we see a lot of stray dogs, and these dogs are normally 1 to 2 years old, but they've got super bad enamel or tooth decay and really unkept coats, and obviously have taken a lot of stress. And those dogs can actually be overaged, so to speak. You might think this dog is 8 to 10 years old, when in fact it's only 4 or 5 years old. So generally, there are many factors to consider when trying to age an animal, both cats and dogs. But normally what vets look at are things like the obvious signs, dental wear, how blunt are specifically the canines. Other factors like, is the animal showing any sort of graying of the beard or of the facial hairs, or even whitening? And then you can kind of go into other things like certain blood tests or certain even ultrasound findings can indicate whether an animal is showing age-related changes. But usually it's an estimated guess. All right, I think with Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving is just passed and all this coming up, this is a really good question. What happens when a dog eats chocolate? So I think it's good to know that chocolates contain a substance called methylxanthines, and both cacao and caffeine fall under this group. So when dogs actually ingest this methylxanthine, it gets converted to toxic principles that kind of cause initially vomiting, diarrhea, and kind of gastric upsets, but that can actually progress all the way to certain organ failures and seizuring. So generally, when dogs or cats have ingested chocolate, or we suspect that they have, the first step is to induce vomition, as to try and get this chocolate out, especially if it's been less than about an hour. So before we just rush off to the vet, yes, there is a certain tolerance in some dogs where they seem to, eat a bunch of chocolate or get into chocolates and show absolutely no signs, or really mild signs like maybe an upset stool. But they counter that, you get other dogs that just have a small piece of chocolate and really show severe signs. And generally this dose dependence is also different in small versus giant breed dogs and versus cats and dogs. And generally we just tell people, do not let your animals get hold of chocolate, period. All right, the next question is, how do you get rid of that skunk smell on your dog? So I think it's important to know that there are various reasons for why dogs, might stink. I actually wanted to do a video on why dogs like to roll in stinky stuff, or why cats are so drawn to stinky stuff. What do you think? Comment down below if I should do that video. But in my experience, most of the time when dogs have this skunk smell, it's generally their anal glands. Anal glands are these small structures that can be found right on the inside of the rectum of dogs that need to be expressed every now and again. If dogs are very, fed whole foods and high fibrous diets, they generally don't need to be expressed as much, but some dogs just have a genetic predisposition to it and need to visit the vets frequently to have them expressed, even the groomers. In some cases, I've actually even taught owners to do it themselves because it's really not that complicated. But that, most of the time, is where the smell is coming from. You might actually see other signs like scooting or dragging their bum or paying special attentions to their bum. Those are your indicators that your dog needs a bit of alleviation. Next question is, how do you stop a dog from barking or a cat from meowing? So these are generally triggered behaviors or behavioral issues. I don't really have a lot of comment on this because it's so dependent on each individual animal and their situations. So generally in these situations, I advise people to try and find the source, the timing or the cause of the barking or the meowing and see if you can work around those things. But generally, people are unsuccessful with this and they generally need to see a dog behavioralist or a cat whisperer. I think this is an important one. Can you put Neosporin on a dog? The obvious answer is yes, you can. But whenever anyone applies any sort of human grade or human medication to a dog, even topically, not even just in tablet form, I always advise that you please just contact your vet and ask them whether or not you can apply this topical cream or give this tablet just to make sure about the dosing, the application and all this. Always work under your vet's instruction to avoid any sort of adverse reactions. Okay, easy one. How do you get rid of fleas on a dog or on a cat? So there are many treatments, topical and oral for dogs and cats for anti-tick, flea, or just general external parasite treatments out there. NexGard, Simparica, Frontline, Bravecto, and each of these actually need to be used with a lot of caution. I want you to discuss the pros and the cons with your vet. Personally, I've never actually had any sort of negative issues with any of these topical treatments or oral treatments, other than perhaps mild lethargy or even a bit of diarrhea, but I've never actually had an animal seizure or become comatose because of them, as I see it's been quite commonly reported. I think right here is a good time to insert that I know a very popular thing to do these days on social media is to advise animals to take garlic. I would never advise you to take garlic, never ever for cats, and I would highly, highly advise against giving garlic to dogs. It is potentially toxic at various doses depending on the individual animal, especially if they have underlying causes. There is no benefit and no fundamental or scientific proof that has proven that garlic has any sort of ectoparasitic control at safe doses in animals. I always tell people, avoid garlic. It yields no benefit with risk that anything else can't maybe provide with lower risks and even better results. So please, generally just stay away from garlic. Even if your animal has ingested it in the past and has never had issues, a vet always needs to advise what's best for the animal, and it is not best to give your animal garlic. And then the last question is, should I get pet insurance for my cat or my dog? Yes, 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 100%. This is a topic I have all the time with my clients. My best advice that I give in these situations is at least get accidental cover. So this covers for if your cat gets hit by a car, your dog gets ripped apart by another dog, anything that is an immediate emergency that normally requires a massive deposit. These plans are generally very affordable and you can kind of budget for this. But pet insurance is such an important and vital and easy to use tool. And the good thing about it is the more people use it, the cheaper it gets. So I remember working in the UK and I remember pet insurance being really affordable and really comprehensive. But now back home here in South Africa, it's a little bit less affordable and not as comprehensible. It has many exceptions. But I still feel that the pros definitely outweigh the cons with getting pet insurance. Unless you're in a really, really tight financial situation and you really can't afford pet insurance, I would probably think twice about getting a pet then in the first place, because accidents and disease will arise and we need to try and budget accordingly for it. But I understand that situations can change. So yes, get the most affordable plan that you, or let's say the best plan that you can afford for yourself and that fits your pet's lifestyle the best. All right, and those are 10 of the most Googled questions that I could find on the internet. If you have any other questions, post them down below and maybe I should make a part 2 answering all these questions. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, keep your fur babies happy and zooming, and until next time, cheers.